Hi, this is David Dickens, and today we want to build this podcast around a recent conversation I had with a client about the best ways to leave money to grandchildren. Specifically, that conversation started with the question, should I leave my IRA to my grandchild? So today we're going to discuss some of the complexities involved with that and offer a couple of alternative ideas for gifting money to grandchildren. I'll go get Walter and we'll get started.
Well, it's time to cover your assets, KC. Once again, Walter Storholt here alongside David Dickens, of course, President, Wealth Advisor of Creative One Advisors Group. And you can find us online at creativeoneadvisorsgroup.com for more information, past episodes, and all sorts of helpful resources. David, looking forward to today's conversation as we look at this IRA problem or opportunity and
Yes.
leaving it to a grandchild, and whether that's a wise idea or not. I'm sure this is inspired by something, somebody in your office asked you this question, or you've run into this situation where people had this idea before.
Yeah, it's in some ways tied to the last couple of podcasts we've done, but this specific question came up in my office. I thought it was a good enough universal question that we should cover it in a 12 or 15-minute podcast, so we'll see how we do today.
Very good. We'll dive into it here in just a few seconds, but first I always like to check in, see how things are going for you. And since you're based in the Kansas City area, have you been hearing a lot about the World Cup over the last couple of weeks? I know that KC is kind of one of the central locations for those festivities over the last couple of days and weeks.
Yeah, it's been pretty fun. I certainly haven't darkened the door of Arrowhead for any of these games, but I have seen it on TV. Arrowhead looked full, and it looked pretty fun. And I'm not a real soccer guy, but I have enjoyed watching the USA team. That's been fun, and anytime they win, that's better than the alternative.
Especially when they're good, it makes it even better. Yeah,
Right. So
best
that's
of
been
luck
fun.
to them Thursday night. I guess they play tomorrow night from when we're taping today's episode. So
They do. So we'll see if they can do the three-peat. And either way, I guess they're moving on to the whatever that is, round of 32s or 16s or something.
Yeah. I think it used to be 16s. This year's tournament is expanded, so there will be a 32 round. So
More
give it
inclusive.
a few more World Cups, and it'll basically be the NCAA tournament. We'll have a round of 64, right?
Yeah, that's a lot more opportunities to sell commercials to advertisers.
It
So
is,
I get
yes. This is like the hydration breaks, right?
it. Exactly. Where did that come from?
We're going to build that into the podcast, folks. We're going to have a hydration break halfway through so we can sell some advertising during it. David will need in the winter, we could get away with that, right? We need to clear our throats, need a little sip of tea, a little vocal break.
Probably shouldn't be a happy hour break.
No, we don't tape late enough in the day for a happy hour break, David.
All right. Well, we'll just go with our normal routine.
There you go. We'll just power through all the way. All right. Well, let's dive into this conversation. So again, should I leave my IRA to my grandchildren or grandchild, if that's ever been on your mind? That's what we're tackling today. So I know that the IRS has rules about leaving your IRA to your kids. And then we have this question of, okay, well, what about to the grandchild? Is that different? Does it follow the same path? Help illustrate those differences as a starting point today, David.
Yeah, so the rules are very different between leaving. There's a special carve-out when your IRA beneficiary is your kid. But if it's your grandkid, there are no special carve-outs. The last couple podcasts, we've mentioned the terms eligible designated beneficiary and non-eligible designated beneficiary. Your spouse, your kids, certain other individuals are eligible designated beneficiaries, and they get a choice as to how they take money out of your IRA when you leave it to them. But if you're a non-eligible designated beneficiary, which your grandchildren are, there are no special carve-outs for them. They're just like giving it to a friend of yours or anybody. So what we want to do is explore a little bit today about some of the complexities of leaving an IRA to your grandchildren, mainly because the expectation is they're going to be young, certainly under 18, you would think. And so what does that mean, and is it worth it, and what are those complexities, and then you can figure out for yourself whether they're worth it to you and to their parents.
All right, so can you give us some more details on why and what those differences are from the children rules of passing on the IRA versus the grandchildren?
Yeah, and so some of the stuff that I'm going to mention here is tax related, and nothing that I say today is going to be tax advice to any individual listener. But here are some of those complexities. The account that you leave, the IRA account that you leave to this grandchild, has to be cleaned out, has to be zeroed out within 10 years. Now, if you, the grandparent, were taking RMDs, required minimum distributions, then your grandchild must also take RMDs. They'd be they'd be calculated based on their age. But the important thing here is, since everybody that listens to these podcasts knows that every penny you take out of your IRA is taxable, it would also be taxable to the grandchild. And if your grandchild is under 18, there's kind of a backwater rule called the kiddie tax. And that's where it gets complicated for not only your grandchildren, but for their parents. So again, this is not specific tax advice, but the kiddie tax in 2026 says basically this. The first $1,350 of income that they get, passive income that they get, and this would be unearned or passive income, that is subject to the standard deduction that they have. So there wouldn't be any tax for that. The next $1,350 is taxed at their marginal tax rate. Anything above $2,700 is taxed at their parents' tax rate. So, if you left a $50,000 IRA, I made this calculation yesterday, and I didn't bring it into my room here where I'm recording this. But it's not really so much the required minimum distribution because it's relatively small. Let's say you left them 50 grand. Based on their age, that required distribution wouldn't even put them over the $1,350, but eventually, within that first 10 years, they have to clean out the entire, let's just say, $50,000 IRA you left them. And that's where it becomes tricky from the kiddie tax. It not only affects your grandkid, but they're not going to fill out their own tax return. Their parent is going to do that for them. So it becomes excessively complex from my standpoint as a financial advisor. And then if you, the person who died and left this to your grandkid, was not of RMD age, you didn't have to take required distributions because you were less than, say, 73, there wouldn't be an annual required distribution with the grandchild, but they would still have to clean out the account at the end of 10 years. The kiddie tax relates to people who are between 0 and 18 years old. So that is just an unnecessary complication that you would be gifting to the next generation if you left an IRA to a grandchild who was going to be under 18. The other weird little thing, and I'm certainly no expert at college aid applications, but if you want to get college aid, financial aid, you fill out a FAFSA, an FAFSA. And what they want to know on that is, what kind of income did this soon-to-be college student have with a 2-year look back? Well, any income they had to take out of this IRA would be income that they would have to report and the asset that they would still have. Let's say that they're taking money out slowly over this IRA. Well, they'd have to report the asset, the IRA as well. So that's a complication if you think that this grandchild is going to try to get college aid and filling out a FAFSA application.
I remember filling those out back in the day and it being just as tough to pronounce back then, David. So
yes. So the takeaway for me was there are unnecessary complications. Yes, you can absolutely leave. If you had a $200,000 IRA and you had 4 grandkids and you want to leave 25% of it to each grandkid, you can absolutely do that. But you're going to create complexities by doing that. And then it's up to you to think through, what kind of complexity am I leaving for the next generation? And is that a good thing?
Well, you've laid out nicely some of these things to think about and the complications between the differences between leaving the IRA to a child and the kiddie tax question that comes up. You mentioned that this started in a meeting in your office in that conversation. I'm curious, now that we understand some of these complexities, what are some of the key takeaways from that conversation that you had?
Yeah, so it didn't take this client long to figure out, okay, this is too much complexity for my grandkids and my kids, their parents.
It's kind of like, why go down this route if we don't have to?
Exactly. And the unintended consequences and, stuff that they hadn't thought through. And frankly, I had to do a little bit of research to remind myself what a FAFSA was and whether or not that would end up being a problem. So there were too many unintended consequences. So we explored a couple of other alternatives for leaving money to grandkids. one that I liked the best was, well, you could start gifting money now. Let's say that you have non-IRA money. Maybe you got a bunch of CDs in the bank, or you got a brokerage account. You can gift up to $19,000 per recipient per spouse. So let's say you're looking to give away more than $19,000 to a grandkid or two or three. Well, between you and your spouse, you can give $38,000 each year to anybody you want, and you don't have to tell the IRS about it. So, you could start gifting that now. You could have them set it up in some sort of brokerage or IRA account, or maybe they buy a car with it, so when they get to college, they don't have to have that expense, or there are a lot of things they could do with that. But gifting it now, and a lot of times, I've had clients that have gotten way more joy. Well, they don't know how much joy they get out of gifting when they're dead because they're not here. And we don't know what you can see from the other side of this life. So, have some fun spreading some money around while you're still living. That's a great thing to do, especially if you're convinced that you're not going to need that money. So, answer number one is, well, you can begin gifting it right now. Answer number two was, you could leave Roth IRA money to the grandkids. And since everybody on this podcast knows, that any money that comes out of a Roth IRA is not taxable. So there's no kiddie tax on that money. They just take the money out whenever they want and need it. There might be a required distribution, but there might not, depending on how old you were when you died. But either way, they'd have to clean that Roth out within 10 years. The only thing that I could think of that might be a stumbling block here is, if they're going to do financial aid, if they're going to apply for financial aid, that FAFSA calculation is still going to want to know about assets that they have. And if they haven't cleaned out that Roth IRA that you gifted to them, that inherited Roth, that would show up as an asset on that application. So, but it definitely would not be income. So that gets rid of one of the big hurdles of that. And then there are a lot of different ways to do non-tax deferred inheritance at your death. So for instance, let's say you have some CDs in the bank. Maybe it's that same 4 grandchildren. You want to give them each 50 grand, and you've got a $200,000 CD at the bank. Well, all you do is put a TOD, a transfer on death designation, on that CD. The bank or the credit union is totally happy to help you fill out that paperwork. Really simple to do. So that they get that inheritance. There's no tax on that inheritance. And then they can do whatever they want with that money, but it's very uncomplicated as long as you set it up before you die. You could have them as listed as a beneficiary on your brokerage account. Let's say you had a $500,000 brokerage account, and you've got 2 kids and 4 grandkids, and you decide to split it up proportionally. You're welcome to do that, and everybody's going to inherit that money, inheritance tax free. So I have clients that have super healthy kids and grandkids, and some that have a mix of, well, if this grandkid gets 20 grand, it's going to be wasted in about 20 minutes. So if that is your problem, well, you can always take the time now to set up a trust and kind of control things from the grave. So for instance, maybe the trust is only set up to establish controls on your grandchildren, or maybe 1 or 2 of your grandchildren. And those controls might say something like, let's say the gift that you want to leave is nice and big and juicy. Maybe it's $500,000 for this grandkid. But you say, at age 20, they get this much. And at age 25, they get this much. And once they graduate college, they get this much. And when they buy a house, they get this much. Whatever you can think of, a good estate planning attorney can write up. And so that would be a way to control larger amounts. Or if you have complex gifting strategies, like some kids need controls and some kids don't. But that was the other way that we talked through with this client, how they might go about making sure that once they're gone, the money gets to where they want it to go in the least complicated fashion for those people who are going to inherit the money. It's a little bit complicated for them as they're thinking through this, but once they put it in place, it should flow very smoothly to the heirs that they want to get the money to. So to kind of a nutshell it, our takeaway was leaving an IRA to grandchildren is probably more complex than anybody really wants from a tax standpoint and maybe a couple of other unintended consequences. Leaving Roth money is simple. Leaving non-qualified or non-IRA money is simple. And you can control it as much or as little from the grave as you want, as long as you set up those rules before you die. So hopefully that is helpful. Way more than half of our listeners are in their 60s or older. So hopefully this is a topic that is helpful for you. I have a lot of conversations with people about gifting money and the next generation and what's going to happen to the inheritance. And so hopefully there was one or two or three things in here that you can put into action in the next week or so.
Yeah, very helpful, David, and I appreciate you walking us through these different solutions. And sounds like you had a great conversation with that client and being able to give them some options and some different ways to approach this problem and think about it. And isn't that what it's all about? You might think, hey, easiest thing to do, I'll just pass this IRA on to a grandkid. Sounds like the cleanest way to do it, but it creates some unintended consequences and complications. And hey, actually, isn't it nice we've got these other opportunities to to utilize this money with and different directions that we can take things in. So always like it when we are able to say, hey, there's one way to do it, but how about these other 5 ways? and look at the benefits and obviously the drawbacks too, and understanding both sides of the coin of each of those. So love that.
A little bit of planning while you're still alive goes a long way after you're not.
Big time. And some people, and I think maybe even more important than it used to be, having that flexibility to use those gifts while you're living and not just having it be something that happens after you pass is something I see and am hearing you talk more and more about, people valuing, maybe more than they used to in the past, where it was just sort of when you passed, you gave the money and that's what it was. And people are getting a little bit more creative about using that while living these days. I've noticed that shift over the last, many years of talking to you, David, and hearing your stories. So kind of cool.
Yeah.
If you've got questions for David, don't ever hesitate to reach out. You can have those conversations by going to creativeoneadvisorsgroup.com or by calling 913-317-1414. And we'll put contact information in the description of today's show so you can find it easily. And David, thanks so much for the help today.
Yeah, we'll all enjoy this soccer game tomorrow and look forward to talking to everybody in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, go USA, and everybody have a great 4th of July as well. And happy Independence Day 250. David,
I know.
Pretty exciting.
How about that?
Yeah. We'll catch up and see how all the festivities turned out next time we chat after the 4th. Until then, take care, everybody, and we'll talk to you again soon right back here on Cover Your Assets, KC.
Creative One Advisors Group has been proudly serving families in the Kansas City metropolitan area since 2003. Over the years, we've evolved to help meet the needs of our clients, becoming KC Financial Advisors in 2010. In November 2021, our advisory business was acquired by Creative One Wealth, LLC, C1W, and in January 2025, we officially adopted the name Creative One Advisors Group. Previous episodes were recorded under the branding of KC Financial Advisors, which has since been rebranded as Creative One Advisors Group. Any references to KC Financial Advisors should now be understood as referring to Creative One Advisors Group. Investment advisory services are offered through Creative One Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Creative One Advisors Group is a DBA of Creative One Wealth. Insurance services are offered through licensed insurance professionals. Investment advisory services are provided in accordance with the fiduciary duty of care and loyalty that includes putting your interest first and disclosing conflicts. Insurance services have a best interest standard, which requires recommendations to be in your best interest. Creative One Wealth is not affiliated with or endorsed by any government agency and does not provide tax, legal, or estate planning advice or services. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. No investment strategy can guarantee a profit or protect against loss. Neither asset allocation nor diversification can ensure a profit or guarantee against losses. None of the information contained herein shall constitute an offer to sell or solicit any offer to buy a security or any insurance product. Insurance product guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing company. The Creative One family of companies includes Creative One Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor, Creative One Securities, LLC, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor, and Creative One Marketing, LLC. These companies share common ownership. Additional details regarding advisory services are available in our firm's ADV Part 2A and Form CRS.